Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Yeah, popping in. Now, listen, wanted to chat with you. I'm resting up today. Been working, but there's one thing that hit me, and if you notice, my videos I've been posting, it's been one thing. So that's what I'm on right now. Sometimes I switch it up, but trying to, be concise in my thoughts and kind of give little nuggets, little takeaways that you can have. But at the same time, gotta keep the finger on the pulse of what people are going through and dealing with. And it's times that I can't relate to the messages that I receive, like in the present, but I still understand it. I've been there, I've grown through it or gone through it. And so just understand when I'm posting the messages that it's something that it needs to be heard by somebody. And today it might not be for you in this moment, but it may be for you next month or even next year. But it's one of the things that I want to put out there because it's not really being said, but it's being said in certain ways, but not as loud as it probably should be. And I was looking today, and it was a reel, and it said the one message that every man needs to hear, or the voicemail. And it was a young lady on the voicemail saying, "Hey, I'm gonna be there for you. If you need me at 2 o'clock in the morning, call me. I'm gonna listen." And the post was about men's mental health, and it's ironic that the word men is in mental, and that's kind of interesting. And then mental health, it shows me, and it just makes me think about how interesting that is, because men suffer in silence. And if you're a woman watching this and you have a son or sons, you have brother, uncle, cousin, if you have your father, I want you to know and understand that men, we don't have the makeup of a woman, in the sense of our brain is not equipped in the way that a woman's brain is equipped, because a woman's body has so much more functions than a man. And I believe the way God designed a woman's brain is much more complex. Now, science says otherwise, according to certain scientists, but when you look at what a woman's body does, even just thinking about a woman going through a menstrual cycle, like, I really want you to think about that. Women go through it without processing it sometimes, but imagine the mental fortitude and the emotional intelligence, the brain patterns you have to bleed for a week and not die. Not be depressed. Like, to know that, hey, this is normal. Yeah, I'm just bleeding all over the place. This is normal. Imagine the women who, and even the women who can't have children, they still have the same brain pattern and brain that women who can have children have. But imagine, and this one, and the reason why I'm saying it like this is because I'm a man, and I think sometimes women don't understand the complexity of their own body because you live in it. It's just like somebody who's great. Sometimes they don't know that they're great because that's just their norm. So I think sometimes women don't understand the complexity of their body. But me being a man, I'm like, when I try to think about something growing inside of me and putting on tens of pounds or over 100 pounds on my body, and stretching me out and changing me, the level of depression that comes after that thought, but to see millions of women go through this process and come out on the other side fine and make it, it just shows the brain power. And I think a lot of times men don't pay attention to that either. Even menopause. Yes, that's men on pause. But, I was around women who may be going through menopause and it'll be cold in the place and they'll be like, is it hot in here? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, that's a hot flash. That's a heat flash, whatever y'all call it. No, that's menopause. I'm just saying it in my head. I don't say it out loud. But I'm just like, the complexity of a woman's body has to be in tune with her mind. And I think that one of the things that men don't talk about is how our mental is so much different. And we suffer in a different way. And as men suffer in silence because it's not publicly acceptable for a man to cry, for a man to complain, for a man to vent. That there are millions of women who call their sons or call their boyfriends or their husbands a little bee, a punk, soft. You're not a man. You cry too much. You complain too much. You whine too much. You always being. Not B-E-I-N-G. I'm talking about the B word. B-I-T. You always being a little bee. Women say that to their sons and husbands. And the reason why I'm saying women, not to say that men don't say it, but I'm saying if women who are said to be emotional creatures, who are nurturers, if women can say it, then imagine how men look at it. Men say way, way worse to men who have feelings. And one of the things I'm working on, a project I'm working on, is I cried on the project, and I cried, with another guy on the project just to show, like, as men, we need to be able to cry. We need to be able to feel. There's so many dead men and dead boys because of other men who did not have the space to cry, who were not given permission to cry, who did not know that it was okay to feel, to hurt, to express. And so all of that bottled up emotion turned into anger and hate. And that sent that man or young boy into the streets with a firearm to take the life of another man or boy. And we don't understand that. And I spoke to a lady last night and she talked to me about the role of the woman in a man's mental health. And she said to me, Tony, a man has been given authority, but a woman has been given influence. And what that means is, she said, you come from me. The man comes from the woman. The woman is the first person that interacts with the man when he's a boy. It's mother who's right there. It's mom who's right there to impact his life, to impact his mental health, to help him develop. So when you see broken men and you see men who don't know who they are, she said, I blame the woman because we have the influence to change a man's life. We have the influence to raise healthy sons and confident and respectful sons. And I'm like, now this is a woman saying this. I'm not saying this as a man because as a man, I blame the man. And you know what? We just solved our problem. If men would hold men accountable and women would hold women accountable And if we both would wake up and accept responsibility for the life that we're living, for the things that we're doing, the world would change. But we live in a world of blame shifting. We live in a world of pointing the blame. The men blame the women blame the men. And so we just go in this vicious cycle and we never get anything done. So I wanted to share this just to say it's a lot of men that's hurting, that's lost, that's depressed, who need some words of encouragement, who need some support, who need someone to believe in them, someone to love them unconditionally, someone to encourage them and to push them, to challenge him. But again, remember the foundation of love. Not someone who will give up on them, meaning not speak life into him, not tell him what he needs to hear. It doesn't mean he needs someone that he can abuse or that he can take advantage of or that he can cheat on and he can use. No, he needs someone who will seek to understand him, speak truth to power, speak life, and hold him accountable. Even if that means walking away. But walking away in truth, in realness, and in love. He doesn't need to be used for what he can do and what he can provide, but yet not given the truth and love, the love and support that he may need. And so I'm seeing so much more online now in the form of reels. I don't really do TikTok like that, but I would imagine it's on TikTok as well, talking about men's mental health. And the lady I was speaking with, she said something else to me. And one day I told them I'm gonna have on the study when I get it back up and going. I just been a little too busy and just unable to produce it the way it needs to be produced. And that's just what happens when you have work-life balance, in the sense of when you got kids and family, and that means more to you than business at times. And so she said to me, she said what a lot of black women don't understand is that companies get points for putting black women in executive positions. So she said the big companies are now giving black women jobs. After affirmative action happened, she said the company gets 1 point for putting a woman in place, but 2 points for having a minority woman in place. And she said that's why white women resent black women, because black women were put in high positions because of the color of their skin, not just because of being a woman. And she said, but what that did is it made black women who were higher and being paid more. And she said, yes, black women will go get the PhDs to show that they deserve to be where they are. But she said what it did is it started to make black women look down on black men and say, you're not on my level and you can't do nothing for me because I made more than you. But she said they didn't factor in. And this is a lady who worked at a Fortune 500 company right out of college making 6 figures. So she's not just theorizing here. It's like she actually lived it. This not coming from a woman working, in at Target at the register. Nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is she's speaking from the highest of high. She done been there. She done been behind the walls. And she said to me, and she said, what the women didn't understand is that they were given a leg up after affirmative action happened. But she said what the powers that be knew is that it would cause division between black women and men. By elevating black women but suppressing black men, it will break down the black family dynamic. And she hit me with that. I said, I've said that before, but I'm a man. So it's going to come off a little different. It's going to sound a little different. It's going to sound like I'm hating. But I say, but you actually are a black woman and you have lived it. Like you've seen it. Like you were in that Fortune 500 position right out of college making 6 figures. So you saw the inner workings of what was happening, what was being done. I'm like, that's deep. But we don't look at it systematically like that. we don't look at the overall meaning and the intention of that chess move, because one of the things that's feared is a black man. And this ain't just about black men, as we talking about mental health, because it's people who with men who got mental health issues that's not black. But as the man, a lot of times we feel like, hey, we got to provide, but there's no advantages. You know, there's no leg up, because the people that run everything is our direct opposition. So if you're a black man, who own the world is white men. A white man don't want to elevate a black man, because then we are a direct threat. So the white man would much rather elevate the black woman, because he doesn't see her as a threat. He sees her as an asset. And so that also plays into the depression and the stuck behind the eight ball mentality that so many black men have. And that then leads to the drinking and the drugs and the womanizing and the self-sabotage, just because of being in a maze and feeling like you can't get ahead, and going from situations to where you feel like this woman is using you, and this woman may be making money, but she want to spend her money on vacations and store up her savings, and the man could be making less money, but yet she expects him to pay all the bills. Or she can make 2 or 3 times, and she wants him to be a husband so she could check off the list, but she doesn't want to split the bills, or she wants to split the bills in half, but she makes 2 or 3 times what he makes, but yet she wants to be seen as one. So in one way, it's like the man is supposed to be the provider and the protector and doing all of those things, but at the same time, he could be looked down upon for not making as much money. And so that leads to a sense of depression. Now, yes, equally, the woman will have her own side, and those sides are out there and expressing what women go through. But that's why I'm expressing it from the man, because women will express from the women, and then what we need to do is seek to understand. So the men, it's our job to seek to understand a woman's mental health issues or what she's battling and facing, and then women seek to understand what the man is battling and facing, and neither of us should minimize the experience of the other. And that's what happens. So when this is expressed, women will say, and you'll see it in the comments, I guarantee it, oh, well, what about women and what we go through? We are this and this and this and this. And no one's discrediting that. No one's discounting that. No one's saying that that's not true. But that doesn't mean that this isn't true. So what we have to do is we bring it all together. The women express themselves, the men express themselves, and then we team up and we say, you know what? Let's help alleviate one another's pain. Let's help by serving one another. Let's help by loving purely one another. And this is how we will bring this family unit back together and build a legacy, build a life, build something that can be passed down and have a lineage that is powerful and strong and not broken down and depressed. Hey, this is Tony Gaskins. God bless you. Y'all forgive me. Of course, I'm talking on top of the dome, so I can't hit every point and flesh out every detail, but hopefully you get the gist of what I'm saying. Love those in your life, love those around you, pray for those around you, and don't abandon those who need you. God bless you. We'll talk soon.